So who am I talking to?
I'm Gina Nagal from Public Good Provisions.
And you were just telling me about the organic chickens. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so I found out, in my work that farmers were only getting paid 25 cents to raise a chicken. And we all know what this sort of chicken costs in a supermarket. And that disparity between what consumers are paying and what farmers are actually getting paid to do this work is so vast that this system can't sustain itself. So that was really the motivation behind Public Good Provisions, is to take this knowledge, this experience of working in food and in the food system, and create another food system, one that's in service of the public good. Because food should be, in my mind, like a public utility. Everyone should have access to well-raised, nutritious food. And the only way to do that is to change the system.
And how do you change the system?
First of all, by through collaboration, I feel like is one of the biggest ways that we can change it. Right now, we're not all working together. When you think about an animal and, all the meat, all the bones, every part of that animal needs to be sold to someone. And if you can't sell every part, then you're charging more for the parts that you can sell. So how do we create quote unquote efficiency, not in a way that denigrates the supply chain or takes advantage of people in the supply chain, but efficiency through high levels of collaboration.
And how do you get the public to be aware of you and what you're doing, and how do you get them to come to you to buy products as opposed to...
Well, I think up until now, we've tried to educate and sort of educate in a way that is almost like what I like to call disaster porn. Telling people what is bad about what they're doing and what it's causing. And I think that if we want people to change, that we need to inspire them. If we inspire them, they'll educate themselves, and inspire them through hopeful stories. And, we need to bring people hope and positivity, and let's start painting a picture of a world that we want to live in, right? And make that picture of that world so astoundingly beautiful that people will be inspired to want to do what they need to do in order to make it happen. And I think about, I've heard this example used before of Martin Luther King. How did he inspire so many people to follow him and to, show up in Washington, D.C., 250,000 people before social media, before television was even widespread? It's not because I have a strategy, I have a dream. And he was able to paint a picture of that dream that was so beautiful and inspiring that others could see themselves as part of it.
That's great. And how do people get more information on this? You have a website?
We don't have a website yet, but we'll be doing events around the country, really bringing the story of regeneration and what this new system and way of raising food and fiber could look like. And we hope that through those experiences, for example, being able to hear the sounds of soil that's depleted versus soil that's regenerating. Soil that's regenerating is actually filled with, noise. There's a cacophony of microorganisms living in that soil. And just that sort of visceral experience of what this difference is, I think, can really begin to inspire people, as opposed to, a dogmatic and separating type of narrative. I think we all want the same things. Deep down, we all share the same human universal needs and desires. and really, creating stories and creating scenarios where we can sort of demonstrate that commonality that transcends these very superficial differences we believe we have with each other. We all want, at the end of the day, the same thing. So let's bring that, the imagery of that, the stories of that, the experience of that to the forefront. So,
And practically, how would the consumer, where are they going to find the products coming through you as opposed to, how would they find them?
well, I think what needs to change, honestly, in that dynamic of like where we can find this food is like right now, we're being sold what retailers believe consumers want, and sometimes that's oftentimes what works out best for the retailer. They're making, for example, more profit on some brands than others. So what I think needs to happen is consumers being inspired by this, and actually I don't think consumers understand exactly how much power they have. If consumers go to a store and say, if you bring this in, I'm going to buy it, they're going to sell that. I mean, all of the change that we have seen so far in the food system, whether it's taking antibiotics out of the food system or, all the various things, it's all been consumer driven. There's no laws mandating these sorts of things. It's just consumers, when they vote with their wallets, they can change anything.
Looks great. And on the aspect about fiber, because we've all lived, been made aware of the Laura Piana scandal. This is something, how is this related to your brand?
I think with fiber, I think it's the consciousness amongst consumers, especially young consumers. Young consumers, it's a generation now that votes with their wallet. In fact, I heard this statistic that said that young people have more faith in changing the system through their purchasing power than through voting. They understand that their attention and their money is the commodity that they have, so they know that where they place their attention and where they place their money can change things. So I think that's really important, and I see that this is moving definitely from food toward fashion. And I think especially amongst this younger generation, they're asking questions. They want to know where things are produced. They want to know how people are getting paid. They've come into this world, I think, at a higher level of consciousness. And that's not a trend. That's an evolutionary shift. So I don't think that we're going to go back to any, the old ways. I think it's only going to be more of what we're seeing right now. And maybe, fashion has taken more time to get to this point, because with food, it's something you're putting into your body. But, people are understanding now even what they put on their body is important.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.